Young males have an unhealthy obsession with my species.
What's up, nerds? This video will pull from every source out there to fully understand the matriarchs of our galaxy, the Asari. They hail from the planet Thessia, and are often regarded as the galaxy's most influential and esteemed sentient beings. Celebrated for their grace, diplomatic prowess, and biotic abilities, their prominence is partly attributed to their early mastery of interstellar travel following the Protheans, and their pioneering role in discovering and colonizing the Citadel.
We were the first species to discover the Citadel. We were instrumental in forming the Council, and we always strive to be the voice of peaceful cooperation in galactic disputes.
They share a similar basic skeletal structure with humans, featuring 5 digits on each hand and relatively straight feet, making them capable of wearing human armor. And they usually have a blue to purple complexion, with teal being a rare variation.
You were only green when the Thorian made you a clone. The real you was blue, like normal Asari.
Those health problems I said were related to the Thorian control. This is mine. A few months after the Thorian died, my skin pigment changed. My biotic abilities are unstable as well.
Many sport distinctive facial markings and unique color patterns that vary for each individual. These markings can resemble human eyebrows, though Asari don't think of them as such, as instead of hair they have semi-flexible cartilage-based scalp crests that maintain their shape and don't move like tentacles as some might think. They possess navels and breasts that continue to grow with age, and renowned for their longevity, Asari can live over 1,000 years, thanks to a robust cellular regenerative system, though they do not heal faster than other species, and they can see in ultraviolet light.
What's it like, living for nearly 1,000 years?
Violent. Wars break out. Colonies get destroyed. Mindwar, Eden Prime, Pharaohs. It's been like that forever. You find peace in whatever arms will hold you. Turian, Elcor, Hanar. Even had a pureblood daughter. I was the father. It didn't work out. And one day you wake up, your figure's gotten matriarchal, and everyone else is too young to remember how the Quarians looked inside those suits.
But the thing most people talk about is how they are a monosex species. The concept of male and female hold no real significance for them. As Liara Tassoni explains,
My species is monogendered. Male and female have no real meaning for us. We still require a partner to reproduce. This second parent, however, may be of any species and any gender.
I don't understand. Your species can mate with anyone?
Mating is not quite the proper term, not as you understand it. Physical contact may or may not be involved, but it is not an essential element of the union. The true connection is mental. Our physiology allows us to meld with other beings. We can touch the very depths of their minds. We explore the genetic memory of their species. We share the most basic elements of their individual and racial identities. We then pass these traits on to our daughters. It is how we learn to grow as a species and how we develop a greater understanding of other races.
Despite this, Asari are often perceived as an all-female race, a view maintained by the Codex and the Galactic Codex Essential Edition 2183. Because most species had sexual dimorphism, and their Asari's physical traits and voices were more similar to the females of those species, especially humans, almost everybody thought they were all female. And we see that when speaking English, many Asari are using female pronouns like she and her, though some use male pronouns or gender-neutral terms when possible. Titles such as the Huntress and Matriarch, and the reference to offsprings as daughters, further suggest that they saw themselves as females. But again, this is being translated so we can understand it, and so this is all likely just simplification for translation. But what's most interesting is that they can mate and reproduce with any sex of any species through a unique form of parthenogenesis. Though they only possess one sex, they are not asexual and do require a partner for reproduction. And instead of doing it the way most species evolved, Asari provide 2 copies of their own genes to their offspring. One set remains unaltered, while the second is modified through a process known as melding or the joining. During this process, the Asari's eyes dilate as she attunes her nervous system to her partner's, exchanging electrical impulses through the skin, though importantly this physical contact is technically not essential, and somehow can be done at a distance. A common phrase before melding is "embrace eternity," likely to help focus the partner's mind and prepare them for this bodily and mental trip. The Asari and her partner briefly become one unified nervous system, sharing memories, thoughts, and feelings. The resulting offspring is always an Asari, irrespective of the species or the sex of the father.
I don't think you realized that our kids would always have been Asari. Non-Asari don't always get that we're not taking alien DNA, we're just using it to randomize some of the genetic information.
Remember, because it could be of any sex, of any species, of course including other Asari, they use our word father to describe the one not giving birth.
Though I know my father, if you want to use that term, was another Asari.
Uniquely, Asari are often perceived as attractive to many other species, because they do happen to share physical characteristics of many other species. Like the body shape of humans, the skin color was appealing to Solarians, and the Turians could relate to those head fringes. Though Morden suggests that the Asari's cross-species appeal is because of this neurochemical intercourse, this ability to swap not just fluids, but actual mental experiences. And though no DNA is taken from the partner, the Asari uses the meld to explore her partner's genetic heritage, incorporating desirable traits into her offspring and using this genetic map in order to randomize the genes. This randomization would have been necessary to prevent the Asari from suffering from the issues of inbreeding. If they had this much control over the genetics of their offspring, you have the issue of everyone making designer babies, going with the same traits, and so might be so genetically similar that they would be like siblings. And you'd end up with some awful odd-looking Asari a few generations out. So though they do select for some traits, there is still a large amount of randomization. And interestingly, pairings with Krogan are not affected by the genophage, making Asari partners a potential means for Krogan to circumvent this reproductive challenge.
Blue rose of Ilium, you have blossomed in a tower of glass and plastic. But beauty under glass is untested and weak. Where are your honored dead? To fertilize the ground that you might grow strong. On the rocky plains of Tachanka, I will build you a garden from the bones of my ancestors.
Why are the two of you on a break?
He's serious. Serious, as in talking about kids. Char is a great guy to date, but for something permanent... Krogans live long lives. It's not like dating a human where you just stick it out for a century till they die. No offense. It made me wonder if he really likes me, or if he just wants kids. He can't have them any other way, you know, because of the genophage.
And as seems a rule in the universe, with all these benefits, there must be some drawback. And this came in the form of the Ardat-Yakshi.
I knew it. Nothing leaves a body quite so empty as an Ardat-Yakshi does.
You haven't taken steps to kill her?
Why would I? She hasn't tried to seduce me. Her last victim was a young girl, pretty thin, lived in the tenements near here.
This rare genetic defect causes an Asari to overwhelm and destroy her partner's nervous system during melding. And this condition appears predominantly among pureblood Asari, those born of both Asari parents. That term translates to Demon of the Night Winds, and what's odd is that comes from an old Asari dialect, though you would think this couldn't be around in ancient times, before they were interacting with so many other alien species. And so though it's said to be more common in purebloods, I think it's a bit misleading. It still would have to be incredibly rare even for purebloods. Like saying something is 1 in a million versus 1 in a billion, it's still a lot more common, but still rare. Having this condition doesn't harm the Asari themselves, and there is speculation on how much the victim suffers. They know the cause of death is brain hemorrhaging, but because the meld is so complete, one can hope that they fade away in some supreme bliss.
My lover spent their last moments experiencing pleasure you can't imagine. Like Neff. She died because her nervous system overloaded with an ecstasy so great she couldn't handle it.
But there's a vampiric element here, where after each encounter, the Ardat-Yakshi becomes increasingly intelligent, stronger, and more lethal. And they also possess the innate ability to dominate the minds of others.
Morinth was just hitting her stride. Ardat-Yakshi who kill leave behind astronomical body counts. It's why they can never be free, and why they're such a great source of shame to the Asari. That's why High Command won't rest until this place is destroyed. They'd never risk a single Ardat-Yakshi getting loose.
This condition remains undetectable until the Asari reaches maturity, at which point it would be too late for remedy. Upon diagnosis, affected Asari face a difficult choice. They can live in isolation, often in monasteries, or face execution.
Most of us are grateful to be here. The monastery is a place Ardat-Yakshi can achieve peace.
This stringent measure is due to the condition's addictive nature, as this vampiric disease causes an overwhelming compulsion to mate, having a snowballing effect which only makes them stronger and makes them want to mate even more, being increasingly able to mentally force people into this and strong enough to not be denied. Though they're born with this, the Ardat-Yakshi are seen as a disgrace within Asari culture, and has gotten so bad by the 2100s that there is often widespread Asari prejudice against purebloods.
I am what is sometimes called a pureblood. Though no Asari would ever be cruel enough to say the word to my face, it is a great insult among my people. It is possible Benezia's partner was embarrassed by their union. She may have been too ashamed to publicly acknowledge me as her offspring.
Samara, being a pureblood, notes that the condition is as old as the Asari species, and in ancient times, some cultures revered the Ardat-Yakshi as gods of destruction. Though with the advent of space travel, the Asari realized that public awareness of this condition would incite panic and mistrust among other species, and so they tried to keep it hidden. The Ardat-Yakshi confined to monasteries channel their energies into productive activities. Their creations often become well-known commodities in the galactic market, such as Asari honey marinade and luxury items like Asari honey mead. Some residents are granted strictly supervised visits to Thessia, believing that they have the right to know their homeworld. However, this is all under the Matriarch's approval. If there were any behavior issues, one would be deemed unfit to leave the monastery. Samara's 3 daughters all suffer from the lethal version of the Ardat-Yakshi condition, and where Morinth chose to embrace her condition, Valeria and Rila opted for a life of peaceful seclusion. However, there's an even less understood and less severe cases that are thought to be more common, some researchers putting it at 1% of the Asari population. And proof of just how powerful this ability can be, despite being 500 years younger than her mother, Morinth is able to match Samara's power. Morinth believes that this is the genetic destiny of the Asari.
I am the genetic destiny of the Asari, but they are not ready to reveal this, so I must die. You are a disease to be purged. Nothing more.
But it seems obvious this isn't true because all Ardat-Yakshi are sterile, and there's no evidence that they could keep living forever if they just kept mating with others. Which, speaking of, the Reapers could get off easy if Commander Shepard risks a ride on this roller coaster. Though a much more pure version of this melding can be seen with Liara melding with Commander Shepard multiple times to help him understand the visions from the Prothean beacons. And Shiala melds with Shepard to upload the cipher into his mind and aid in interpreting the visions. According to Liara, melding minds signifies a deep connection, often reserved for friends and family, and can even be a way of saying goodbye. And so though connected to sexuality, it does not have all the connotations that other species might attribute to this. It's unclear whether the ability to meld minds is innate from birth or develops during puberty, and if so, when this occurs. Liara is 106, relatively young for an Asari, when she first melds with Shepard. Valeri's Ardat-Yakshi condition, which involves a dangerous melding, was discovered by age 42, indicating she had attempted to meld at least once, and Morin's condition was also identified by her 40s. Asari pass through 3 major life stages, each marked by distinct biochemical and physiological changes. The maiden stage begins at puberty and is characterized by a drive to explore and experience. Young Asari are often curious and restless, commonly working as dancers in bars or as mercenaries during this time.
We need to get our daughters working earlier, not spending their wild maiden years stripping or in merc bands. When I started talking about making new mass relays ourselves, they laughed the blue off my ass. So now, I serve drinks.
The matron stage starts around 350 years, though it can occur earlier with frequent melding. This stage is marked by a desire to settle down and raise children.
It's fun to join a mercenary guild or dance at bars for a few centuries, but eventually you hit the matron stage, you know? Then you get your back tattoo removed, let your scalp go back to its natural blue, and settle down with someone dependable.
The Matriarch stage begins around 700 years old, and here they often become community leaders, offering wisdom and guidance from centuries of experience.
Gabi, have you ever seen recordings of Liara's mother, Matriarch Benezia?
Yes? What about her?
And remember Samara, the Asari Justica?
Where are you going with this, Kenneth?
Have you noticed that older Asari women seem to be a bit more ample? Do you think they just keep growing?
Kenneth!
I think I'll spend my sunset days in an Asari retirement home.
If I don't kill you first.
Though keep in mind, these stages can commence whenever an Asari feels she has reached the appropriate level of maturity. While each stage comes with a strong biological inclination, individual choices can vary wildly. Some maidens prefer to stay close to home rather than explore. Some matrons chose career over family, and some matriarchs show little interest in community involvement. But those 3 are the typical norm of the billions of Asari across the galaxy. Due to their extensive lifespans, Asari possess a long view perspective that is uncommon among other races. When faced with new species or situations, they favor prolonged periods of passive observation and study instead of immediate action. They are untroubled by investments or decisions that may take decades or even centuries to bear fruit. The seemingly inscrutable decisions made by matriarchs often reveal their wisdom when their meticulously planned strategies do finally come to fruition. In similar relations, this long-term perspective translates into an unspoken policy of centrism, where the Asari instinctively strive to maintain a stable balance of economic, political, and military power, often not being pulled too far in either direction between two other debating species. Councilor Tivos, the Asari representative to the Citadel Council, embodies this approach. And traditionally, the Asari extended their influence through cultural dominance and intellectual superiority. They welcome newly advanced species into the galactic community, confident that their ideals and beliefs will gradually permeate the existing culture. Among themselves, the Asari favor communal and consensus-driven attitudes, often choosing to live in shared spaces aboard starships, even when there are other options available. And though I mentioned this before, that they believe that the offspring inherits the best qualities of the father through that melding of their genes, technically that is largely anecdotal. We have no confirmation from other species like Solarians, for example, that could look into this and dispute it.
Scientists say all that stuff about us getting genetic material from the father is crap. Seems like I got a bit of his mouth, though.
But because the offspring is always Asari, they do encourage interspecies relations, seen as a way of increasing the genetic diversity and cultural insights of their offspring. Over centuries, if one's family line remained pureblood, it wasn't just the risk of the Ardat-Yakshi, but more so that it showed a provincial mind, someone that must have never left home and explored the stars.
If both parents are Asari, then nothing has been gained, or so conventional wisdom would hold.
The ones that did travel were keenly aware of their attractiveness and comfortably expressed their sexuality, often seen as exotic dancers in venues like Chora's Den or Afterlife.
Not really my kind of place, but there sure are some spectacular views here.
And even David Anderson acknowledges that, despite their political and military might, their elegant and feminine appearance sometimes makes it difficult for him to remember that they were the strongest alien species out there. An extra benefit to the owners is that this is often a form of martial art. It might look provocative to onlookers, but they're often going through specific combat moves, and Alec Ryder even jokes that they could double as bouncers. Their natural sensuality and ability to mate with any species have led to rumors of Asari promiscuity, often fueled by misinformation or simply wishful thinking. In reality, Asari understand that mating outside their species means they will almost certainly outlive their partners, except in the case of Krogan. This forces them to adapt their philosophical long view in relationships as well, cherishing the time with their partner rather than dwelling on the inevitable loss.
Mom was a matriarch herself. Dad was near on 1,000 when the truth came out.
On the Citadel, an Asari and her Turian companion debate over a souvenir.
The fish. Fish have nothing to do with the Citadel. Besides, it'll be dead in a couple of years.
The important thing is to embrace the time that you have to spend with a fish.
Is this the lifespan talk? I'm not having the lifespan talk.
Similarly, the memoirs on Ilum Kiosk, an Asari and her Solarian stepfather consider a memento for her mother, highlighting their aging differences. And so you often see them raising their daughters alone, both outliving their interspecies father. Many of them celebrate Janiris, a springtime fertility ritual named after Janiri, the guide of the goddess Athame.
That's Janiri, Athame's guide who brought enlightenment to Thessia long ago.
And you don't see the resemblance?
This festival marks the beginning of the new year, and Asari create wreaths of flowers to share with their friends and loved ones. Similar to some other Citadel species holidays, Janiris has been embraced by other species living in Citadel space. Some choose to renounce their most personal possessions and become Justicars, members of an ancient order bound by a strict code. They seek to right wrongs made within Asari space, often using severe measures, including lethal force.
They're a monastic order. They've given up their families and possessions to follow their code. Most of them are on some lifelong mission, but they'll always stop to deal with any injustice they encounter, which can be a problem. In some ways, they're a lot like the Spectres, undertaking personal missions.
Spectres are authorized by the Council. Who do Justicars represent?
What? That's like, I don't know, a good human metaphor. They represent their code, our code. It's closer to a religious group than a legal branch. No law-abiding Asari would question a Justicar's orders. Nobody becomes a Justicar for personal gain. and they die before breaking their oaths.
It is uncommon for a Justicar to leave Asari territory, as doing so could provoke diplomatic issues with other species. Although all Asari are natural biotics, some opt not to develop their biotic abilities. This choice excludes them from military service, yet it carries no social stigma. Their politeness involves maintaining a slightly wider personal space than humans, staying just beyond easy melding distance from one another. Another odd detail is that they typically have 2 meals a day, compared to the often 3 meals and tons of snacking of humans. And they also have the galaxy's single largest economy, underpinned by extensive trade networks and social connections. Craft guilds in cities like Sarais and Amali dominate the market for advanced biotic tech, and with their long view of history, they have a near monopoly. With their significant political clout, an embargo imposed by the Asari would be catastrophic for the Alliance. The primary Asari religion, Siari, translates roughly to all is one, and embraces pantheistic beliefs. Followers hold that the universe is a single consciousness, with each life form representing a facet of this greater whole. Death, in Siarist belief, is the return of one's spiritual energy to the universal consciousness, which will eventually inhabit new mortal vessels. Reincarnation is not a direct belief, rather, the idea of spiritual energy rejoining the cosmic whole and later being redistributed. Siari gained prominence after the Asari ventured beyond their homeworld and discovered their unique ability to meld with almost any other life form. This ability is seen as evidence that all life is fundamentally connected. The Siari priestess view their mission as fostering unity among diverse fragments of the universe's awareness, which can be seen in different interpretations of everything from Gnosticism, Taoism, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Before Siari's rise, Asari religions were as varied as their political views. A common theme was the belief in gods who existed separately from the world, overseeing it from above. The most enduring of these old beliefs is the monotheistic worship of a goddess Athame. Athame, like the Asari, embodies the triple aspects of maiden, matron, and matriarch. They often invoke the goddess in oaths, though this may be more of a cultural habit than a reflection of personal faith. And the names of some of these gods survive. Elune was revered as a physician and was believed to have been taught medicine by Athame. The rings of Elune are holy relics that inspire modern Asari to acts of compassion and healing. Athame was the highest god, the goddess of prophecy and fate. Janiri was the goddess of seasons, storms, and agriculture. Krala, the demon of misfortune. Corinth, the goddess of war and hunting. Lucin, the servant of Athame who imparted essential knowledge of civilization to the Asari. Piares, the goddess of death, guiding spirits on their final journey. Tukria, legendary archer from Thessia's Iron Age. And Tavura, goddess of love, sex, travel, and law. The Asari governmental structure, known as the Asari Republics, is expansive and decentralized, as the concept of a unified world government came late to them. For centuries, Thessia was a patchwork of loosely connected republican city-states, akin to the ancient Mediterranean city-states on Earth. Their culture, which highly values consensus and cooperation, saw little need for a larger governing body, and instead of hoarding resources, they engaged in open trade. And not warring over different philosophies, they sought mutual understanding. It wasn't until the information age that these city-states began to integrate, evolving into what was called an electric democracy, voting through their form of internet communication. Unlike other species, the Asari have no political or formal elections, aside from their council representative. Instead, they have a dynamic legislature where citizens are included. Policy debates occur around the clock in official chat rooms and forums, moderated by specially programmed virtual intelligences. All policy aspects are open to debate at any time, though the opinions of the Matriarchs, the revered and experienced Elder Asari, are given the most weight and are almost always deferred to. Today, the Asari often serve as the diplomatic arm of the Citadel Council, and have been instrumental in discovering and integrating many races into the galactic community. Around 200 BCE, the Asari first made contact with the Elcor and helped establish regular trade routes to the Citadel. In 2184 CE, the Asari cruiser Azendes encountered the pre-spaceflight Raloi, who were officially welcomed into the galactic community a year later. The Asari military is akin to a collection of tribal warrior bands without a centralized national structure. Each community forms its own unit according to local preferences and elects a leader to command them. Units from large cities are well equipped and sizable, while those from rural villages might consist of only a few women with light arms. There is no standard uniform, everyone wears what they prefer. Despite this decentralized approach, the Asari military is not an irregular militia. Its members are full-time professionals. The typical Asari huntress, another term for Asari commando, is in the maiden stage of her life, having spent 20 to 30 years mastering the martial arts. Asari who choose to become warriors do so at a young age, dedicating their education to honing their minds and bodies for combat. By the time they retire, they have developed a formidable proficiency for warfare. Huntresses fight either individually or in pairs, depending on the tactics favored by their community. A single huntress is a formidable opponent, combining keen tactical insight, a hunter's sharp eye, and the grace and agility of a dancer. Because all Asari have biotic ability, anyone who is not exceptionally powerful with this would be excluded. And while agile and mobile, they're not built to withstand heavy firepower like Krogan, Turian, or humans. Their small units, often lacking heavy armor and support weapons, make them ill-suited for conventional warfare, especially in defensive situations. Therefore, they primarily focus on special operations, and much like guerrilla fighters, they can excel in ambush, infiltration, and assassination, using stealthy, intense strikes to demoralize and defeat their enemies. Asari huntresses were among the first to be chosen as specters, and played pivotal roles in the Krogan rebellions. A popular Turian saying goes, "The Asari are the finest warriors in the galaxy. Fortunately, there are not many of them." And not being many is relative. Again, their numbers are still pretty large, just not the largest out there. Though they do boast one of the most powerful navies in the galaxy. In 2183 CE, their navy included 21 dreadnoughts, like the formidable Destiny Ascension, which has almost as much firepower as the rest of the Asari fleet combined, and serves as the flagship of the Citadel fleet. Although they possess significant firepower, the Asari prefer fleets composed mainly of frigates and fighters, aligning with their hit-and-run tactics and favoring a nimble swarm over a slower, larger collection of vessels. And they developed weapons like the Acolyte heavy pistol and the Disciple shotgun. The Acolyte is effective at stripping enemy shields and barriers, relying on the shooter's biotics to compensate for its less effectiveness against armor. The Disciple fires shells packed with micro-scale sub-munitions, dealing substantial damage and stunning even shielded enemies. The Asari military also utilizes an A-61 Mantis gunship, and all of this was used to protect the at least 21 Asari colony worlds. As for their history, they originate on Thessia, a bountiful world abundant in Element Zero, which gave rise to biotic abilities in much of its life forms. Key to the advancement of Asari civilization was the interventions of the Protheans. Upon discovering the Asari, the Protheans assumed the guise of Athame, a benevolent goddess, and bestowed wisdom through her guides Janiri and Lucen. This benevolent deception enabled the Protheans to accelerate Asari development significantly. They also genetically modified the Asari to enhance their biotic capabilities and protected Thessia from an asteroid impact, as well as the all-consuming Aurivores. When the Protheans eventually left, they would be sure to leave behind a single beacon on Thessia, around which the Asari later constructed a grand temple dedicated to Athame. This beacon housed Vendetta, a Prothean VI, and over centuries, it became the source of numerous technological advancements that propelled the Asari to become the most powerful race in the galaxy. The existence of the beacon was kept a tightly guarded state secret, as revealing it would undermine the widely held belief that the Asari achieved their status solely through their own efforts. By 2183 CE, only the highest level of the Asari government were aware of the Protheans' role in their history. The Asari were the first of the races from our cycle to achieve spaceflight and navigate the mass relay network. Upon discovering the Citadel in 580 BCE, they were met by the Keepers, whose silent assistance allowed them to quickly settle on the station and master its systems, describing them as seeming like they were greeting a master after a long time away, like servants rushing about to make them feel at home. 60 years later, first contact with the Solarians led to the founding of the Citadel Council in 500 BCE, a galactic governing body that would eventually unite dozens of races. The Asari continued their explorations, welcoming several other species into the expanding galactic community. During the Reaper invasion of 2186 CE, they prioritized defending their own worlds, initially refraining from supporting other races. Despite their efforts, the Reapers overwhelmed Asari defenses and infiltrated their space. Their hit-and-run tactics managed to slow Reaper advance, but they could not stop it. Remember, their entire military was not built for defense. In desperation, the Asari government authorized their counselor to reveal the existence of the Prothean beacon hidden in the Temple of Athame on Thessia, hoping that it would hold the key to completing the Crucible, the galaxy's only hope against the Reapers. And while Shepard attempted to retrieve the beacon's data, Thessia would come under direct attack for the first time since the Rachni Wars, and the Asari homeworld fell swiftly. With no other options, they joined the Allied war effort, contributing significant resources to bolster the Allied fleets and complete the Crucible. Asari forces fought alongside other Allied races in the final battle against the Reapers over Earth. And though what happened that fateful day is debated, it seems like Liara is still out there, surviving the Reaper threat. So that's it for the breakdown. And as for behind the scenes facts, let's keep talking about that trailer. There's been some talk that the next Mass Effect game will play with quantum mechanics and time travel via black holes perhaps. I don't know how much stock I put into that. It can go horrible for any series, as then anything could happen, which means there's no canon and therefore nothing matters. But assuming they don't go in that direction, most people agree that this trailer means the Destroy ending was canon. It cannot be Synthesis, though I'm not sure why Control would be eliminated just from what we see in the trailer. Maybe there's something I missed, something a developer said somewhere. But I think also just storytelling-wise, I doubt we'll be working alongside the Shepard-controlled Reapers in order to fight off some other new force. But this would mean for sure Synthesis was wrong. If you want to see a separate video I did on that I put on the Clips channel, I think it was well made and it sparked a ton of debate, so check out the card or I'll pin it in the description or in the comment. The Asari draw their name from Osiris, the Egyptian god of the afterlife, and their primary religion, Siari, shares similarity with the Minbari faith from Babylon 5. As both believe the universe is a conscious entity and every individual is part of a greater whole. According to the Art of Mass Effect, the Asari were designed to embody the green alien girls trope popularized by Star Trek, and their architecture is likened to the works of Santiago Calatrava. And their head fringes did evolve from initial concept art showing a hairstyle. The name Thessia is derived from Thessaly, a region that Roman writers like Ovid and Seneca believed was home to witches capable of drawing down the moon. Other in-universe tidbits is that Mordin mentions offspring from Asari-Vorka pairings are allergic to dairy, while Basile suggests that Asari have outgrown allergies altogether, no matter who they mate with. And to put their civilization progress on a timeline compared to Earth, they had automobiles 30,000 years ago. Their equivalent of the 20th century was around 30,000 years ago. Thanks for watching, please hit that like button, it's the best way to help me out. Subscribe to see more, leave a comment, and check out these other videos, I'm sure you'll like them. But most important of all, remember, don't risk your little shepherd or the galaxy by melding with a vampiric alien blue lady. But for now, I should go.